No, I don't see any hands. So basically, IELTS is another test that you can take to show your English ability. That's what it is. And in my opinion, it's better than TOEFL for a couple of reasons. Um, I'm going to show you in this video how you can tackle the IELTS reading passage. It's also, I think, more interesting. There's like a greater variety of tasks that you can do. The TOEFL test is a little bit more academic, which makes it a little bit more boring. The IELTS, at least in the past, used to be on paper. You can talk to a human. I know IELTS, I think they have a computer version now. But anyway, let me kind of show you how IELTS works for reading strategy. 1 second. New share. Okay. So with the IELTS, so here's an IELTS reading passage right here. There's 13 questions and you're given 20 minutes. So that's very similar to TOEFL. And I want you to really understand something about the IELTS. The IELTS only has one trick. One trick. And that trick is basically what we call changing vocabulary. So the TOEFL has a variety of question types like author's purpose, inference, sentence addition, sentence rephrasing. The IELTS really only does this changing vocabulary trick. And if you can figure out this trick, you can figure out an IELTS reading passage quite easily. Let me show you what I mean. So what do I mean by changing vocabulary? So for example, the passage might use the word expensive. And the correct answer might use the word high priced, for example. The passage might say the word variety. And the correct answer will use the word range. So what they're doing is they're just saying the same idea, but they're just using different vocab. And if you can figure this out, the IELTS reading is actually, in my opinion, quite easy. Let me show you an example of this. Okay. So this is the first question. Do you see where it says provides access to trapped water? The actual passage is not going to say that. They're going to say something different than provides access to trapped water. Do you see like this phrase looks like right there? They're not actually going to say looks like. They're going to say something different. Like, what would be a word that has the same meaning as looks like? Anybody know? What's a word that has the same meaning as look like? So Retul said seems to be. That's a little bit different. I'm thinking of a word that starts with an R. Anybody know? R-E. Replica? No, I'm thinking of the word resembles right there. I'm not saying that that's actually the answer, but the passage is not going to say looks like. It's going to say some kind of synonym of look like. Same thing here with necessary. It's going to say some kind of synonym of necessary. And so that's basically the trick with the IELTS. So let's do this first one together. So if you look at the picture, so that's another thing about IELTS. It's very different than TOEFL. Like sometimes they give you pictures, sometimes they give you diagrams that you have to label. So they're asking me, what is number one? You know, what is this thing? And then the clue down here is it provides access to trapped water. So let's take a look. So if you come up to the first paragraph here, it says some consumers choose to purchase bottled drinking water rather than relying on city tap water supplies. Bottled water has typically been extracted from underground sources. If water exists underground but has no natural exit points, so do you see this right here? Has no natural exit points. That right there is a synonym for trapped. So this is the clue that I'm kind of near the correct answer for number one. Bottling companies may construct a water table well by drilling down to extract water from an unconfined aquifer. So extract water means to bring the water up, right? So here is where the answer is. Has no natural exit points equals trapped. Extract water means if you come down here, See where it says provides access to trapped water? So provides access is going to be extract the water. And then the trapped water is the one with no natural exit points. See how they're just changing the vocab, but it's the same idea? And then finally, once we do that, we can see what the answer is. So around these vocab words, what are they talking about? Well, they're talking about they can construct a water table well right there. So that would be the correct answer for number one. Correct answer would be a water table well. So water table well. Now, another thing about IELTS is you have to follow the directions. So am I actually allowed to write 3 words here? If you come up to the directions, it says choose no more than 3 words from the passage for each answer. So that is okay. So basically, that's how IELTS works. IELTS works just by changing vocab from the passage to the answers. Like, for example, let's do number 4. So it says the flowing artesian well, and it says it looks like something. So if we come up to the passage, we're looking for this idea of flowing artesian well, and it looks like it's going to be right here in the second paragraph. And remember, we're looking for a word that means looks like, or a phrase that means looks like. My guess was resembles, but I don't know if that's correct. So due to the pressurized nature of this aquifer, water will often rise up from within it and form a flowing artesian well, which appears, there you go. So what they're saying is look like equals appears, like appearance, right? As an explosive fountain. So that's the correct answer. The correct answer is it looks like or appears as an explosive fountain. So I'm just going to write down these 2 words. Explosive fountain. All right, so any questions about that before we do some of these other problems? So that's how IELTS works. Any questions? All right, Zial, how are you?
Hello,
Hello.
Greg. I have a question. I am my undergraduate subject was textile engineering. For now, for higher study in USA, which will be prepared for me? IELTS
Sorry,
or
sorry,
TOEFL?
Zial, can I stop? Your microphone is not very good. I can't hear you clearly.
Hello,
Yeah, I can hear you a little bit. It sounds like there's a lot of background noise.
hello. Can
Yeah,
you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, try to talk clearly.
Okay. My undergraduate subject was textile engineering. So for higher study in USA for MSc, which test will be prepared for me? IELTS or TOEFL?
So, good question. So, I think you're saying which test is better, IELTS or TOEFL? In America, it doesn't really matter. The most people think TOEFL is better, but that's actually not true. If you look at a lot of the IELTS, or you look at a lot of the university websites, they say that IELTS is no problem. So, in my opinion, TOEFL kind of has this advantage with perception, but that's not actually the reality. So, any university you're going to, I bet you, I can almost guarantee you that they take IELTS. All right. So, Zial, I would just see which one you're more comfortable with. IELTS is more of like a vocab test. Doctor, do you have a question?
Hey Greg, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know that when we do we need to skim those passages, reading passages,
I
skimming?
mean, not really, because the questions go in order. So that's number one. They go in order. So once you find one location, you can just keep going down. And number two, remember, all you're doing is matching vocab. So you can skim them if you want, but you don't really need to. It's very different than GRE. So I would say experiment with various strategies that give you the best result. So, like for example, so water table well is the first answer. The second answer has to be right after that. That's how IELTS works. So see this clue they give us due to the lower land level. So let's come up to the passage here. Okay. So here's the first answer right around here. So the second answer has to be right around here. This is done is much lower than the Earth's surface. In some cases, as with a valley or gully on a mountain, the level of the water table may be higher than the Earth's surface. So right here. So take a look at this. The level of the water table is higher than the Earth's surface. So that means that the lower land level is right here. So that's the matching vocabulary. And a natural spring, so that tells us the answer is natural spring right there. So see, if you do this process effectively, you don't really need to read. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you. I
Okay.
understand.
Yep. All right. Any more questions? Okay, Retul. Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
Greg. So unlike Jerry, can we just jump into the questions directly and then go search for the answers based on the vocabulary which is
Pretty much. Yeah.
matched?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's very different than GRE, right?
Right,
But again, I want you to experiment.
right. Okay.
So maybe having a little bit of background knowledge will help you,
Uh-huh.
but it's certainly not necessary.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in this case, like for example, the questions are like you just need to fill in the blanks and the options are given. I don't think so. It's the same for all the types of questions.
No, so IELTS has a variety of tasks. Like if you come down here, you
Right.
actually have to match these things to these statements
Mm-hmm.
right here. So that's a matching exercise. And if you look at question 12 and 13, they're telling you to choose two letters, A through E.
Right.
Okay, does that make sense?
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, I think IELTS is more interesting just because there's more tasks.
Okay.
But you do have to kind of make sure you read the directions so you don't make a mistake.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
make
I'll
sense?
experiment.
Yeah,
Yes, I'll
experiment. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Sure.
Rahul, you have a question?
Yes, Greg. Like, can you explain the second answer again, please?
Sure. All right. So you mean the natural spring?
Yeah.
So do you see where it says due to the lower land level?
Yes.
See that? So that means that the land is low, right? Notice they're saying lower, right?
Yeah.
That means comparison, right?
Okay.
Okay, so if you come up to the passage, right, come up to the passage is right here. All right, so do you see where it says the level of the water is higher than the Earth's surface? Well, another
Yes.
word for Earth's surface is just land, right?
Yeah.
And if the level of the water is higher than the Earth's surface, that means that the land is lower.
Oh, yeah. Got it. Got
Yeah,
it.
so you see how that works?
Yeah. Got
And
it.
so that's why we choose the answer natural spring.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
All right.
Thank you.
So let's go ahead and Mohammed has a question. Hey, Mohammed.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, just wanted to ask one thing. Does the Control F works on the IELTS platform?
Sorry, say again.
The Control plus Find, does it work on the IELTS platform if you want to search a particular text?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, that's too easy.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I think so. He was asking, can I use Control F? And I'm pretty sure the answer is no, for a couple of reasons. Number one, for a long time the IELTS was on paper. I think they have a computer version now, but I haven't taken it. When I was looking at IELTS or teaching IELTS, it was mostly on paper. It was all on paper, and I'm not sure if they still like give you the choice or if it's all on computer now. I'm actually not sure. I should probably research that. So, but basically, you guys can see how this works. It's just a big vocab test. That's all it is. Like, let's look at the next one here. So, this next word here doesn't give us a clue. But if we look at the diagram, I'll show you what I mean. So, right here, there's no vocab clue, which is a little bit unusual because IELTS always gives a vocab clue. But there is this kind of picture here. So what we're looking at, if you look at this diagram, we're looking at something that's like very low, maybe even like deep, right? And if you come up to the passage, let's see what we say. Okay, so it says bottling companies are permitted to extract this water a whole, but the composition of the water. So notice there's nothing here about deep, not yet, but let's keep reading. Artesian water is drawn from a confined aquifer. A deep right there. So that means the correct answer to number 3 is going to be confined aquifer. Now, here's the cool thing about IELTS. You don't have to understand what confined aquifer means because that's not what they're testing. They're just testing that you know the word deep right there. Let me show you what I mean. So if you come up here, this word here could say banana, right? And then you would just write down the word banana because all you care about is this signal word deep. So, but don't make a mistake on the IELTS because you just have to copy down the letters. So number 3 is going to be a confined aquifer. A confined aquifer like that. And then finally, number 5, see this word necessary, right? Well, obviously, there's a lot of different ways to say necessary. So you could say is important, is essential, something like that, right? So that's kind of the word we're looking for. And if you look at the picture, this is the picture right here of number 5. So whenever we read this passage, we're looking for a synonym of like important or essential or necessary. So let's go ahead and see if we can find it. However, this only occurs when the surface is lower than the natural water table. If the surface is not lower than the natural water table, it is still possible to draw artesian water by using an extraction pump. Okay, so the answer might be extraction pump. The only problem is I'm not seeing anything about necessary, but you do see the word only, right, which tells you do need something. So let's see. However, this only occurs when the surface water is lower. If the surface is not lower than the natural water table, so it's high. If the surface is high, it is still possible to draw artesian water by using an extraction pump. So let's come back up to the picture. So right here, the surface is higher than the water table, right? And remember the word only, it's only possible. Well, that is basically another way to say necessary or essential, right? So the correct answer is going to be number 5, extraction pump. Extraction pump. And again, you don't need to know what that means. You don't need to know what that means. All right, any questions before you guys try this by yourself? Zial, did you have another question?
To you, what is the basic difference between TOEFL and IELTS?
That's probably a discussion for another video, but the basic difference is there's not much difference at all. So the IELTS and the TOEFL, they do the same thing. They're just there to measure your English ability. They just do it in a slightly different way, but they are quite similar in many cases. Ranjan, question? I think you need to unmute your microphone.
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah. So I was just wondering, there is a type of question like true, false, and not given. This type of question usually comes in IELTS. So I
Yes.
just wanted to ask, like, is there any trick, or how can we solve those questions?
It's always vocab. Always, always, always. So in a true question, the vocab will match, right? It'll say like tall and high, for example. In a false answer, the vocab will be contradictory. So it will say like tall and short. And then in the no evidence, you'll have no matching vocab.
Yeah, but sometimes I get confused with like whether it is false or not given.
No, but the IELTS, again, are you using official material or not official?
I'm using official material. Yeah.
Okay, so the actual answers are pretty clear, right? So if you are getting confused, that probably means you're missing a word. Like you're missing one of the matching vocab words because the answers are really pretty clear, whether it's true or not given.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good question. Good question.
So, like, can we take any question if you have any question related to those topics, or so can we take any question and discuss if you have those questions
Question about what?
about that true, false, and not given question?
Sure. The passage I have here doesn't actually have the true, false, not given question type, But like I said, on the IELTS, every single question is the same strategy. You're just looking for matching vocab. That's it.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I think the IELTS is kind of a joke because of this. Yeah. As long as you can just find this matching vocab, you're pretty good. So how about you guys try this by yourself? All right. So I'm actually going to send you the link to this reading passage here. Hold on. I'll put it in the chat. So everybody go ahead and look at the chat. Let me find the link. All right. Okay, so everyone look in the chat. I just sent you the link. When you go to that link, you want to click on the reading PDF, the academic reading, by the way. And then I want you to go ahead and do questions 6 through 11. And keep in mind, in questions 6 through 11, do you see these answers here? These answers are just going to have different vocabulary. So for example, instead of the word prevent, they might say stop. Instead of the word remove, they might say take out. Instead of the word produces, they might say creates. You know, instead of the word useful, they might say beneficial. So that's kind of how this works, guys. All right, did everyone get the link? So you want to click on academic reading. Okay, guys, go ahead and do questions 6 through 11. And I'll give you about, let's say I'll give you 8 minutes. 8 minutes, okay? Beginning now. Okay, guys, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Okay, that's about 8 minutes, everybody. So, what I want you to really focus on rather than the answers are how they're changing the vocab. So, for example, being transported, emergencies, physical barrier, prevent reproducing, removes all the mineral particles, and then produces a lot of wastewater. So, let's start with the first one. Mohammed says he cannot hear me. Can you guys hear me? Okay. So let's start with the first one here. If you look at the passage, where does it say it continues to protect it as it's being transported? Can somebody raise their hand and tell me where does it say as it is being transported? Obviously, it's using different vocabulary. Anyone want to give that a shot? No? Nobody? Okay. So as it is being transported, if you come up to the passage here, right, I'll show you where it says that. So it's not going to say the same vocabulary. It's going to say different vocabulary, right? So if you come up here to the correlation passage or the paragraph, it says here, let's see, remains the only antimicrobial treatment capable of ensuring water remains contaminant free all the way through the pipes and to the taps of domestic homes. So that right there is basically their way of saying being transported. So the correct answer to the first one is chlorine. All right. For the second one, what does the passage say for emergencies? Anyone can raise their hand. What does it say for emergencies? So again, the passage doesn't say the word emergencies. Okay. Zial, what did the passage say instead of emergencies? Are you there? Zial? Okay, Rahul? Can you hear us, Rahul?
Yes, Greg.
Hey, yeah, so what does the passage say instead of emergencies?
I'm actually searching for it.
Hello.
Hello? Zial, do you know?
Yes, it means urgency.
No, it doesn't say that. So the passage uses a synonym for emergencies.
Here, immediately after natural disasters.
Exactly, right there. So what they're saying is the emergencies equal the natural disasters. See how IELTS works? All they do is just change the vocab. That's all they do. So that's why the correct answer is going to be C right here. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about the third one. It uses a physical barrier. What does the passage say for physical barrier, doctor?
Yeah, in the passage in some bottled water is advertised as a purified, which means subjected to variety of different cleansing process, a filtering procedure.
Don't tell me don't tell me a sentence. Just tell me one word. In the
Filtering
passage,
procedure.
filter, right?
G.
Yeah,
Yes.
but I think there's an even better answer. I'm thinking the word membrane.
Cleansing process.
Yeah. If you come up here to the passage where it talks about this process, it says right here, do you see pressed through microscopic membranes? Right here?
Yeah.
Membrane is another word for like a barrier. Right there. Where do you see the word filter? Oh yeah, filtering right here. Filtering procedure. Yep. So either filter or membrane would work. So good job. Okay. Let's look at the next one here. The next one is it prevents bacteria from reproducing. What does the passage say instead of prevent and instead of reproducing? Akshay?
It neutralizes the bacteria from reproducing.
So specifically, what word does the passage use?
Neutralizes, impeding their ability to replicate.
Yeah, replicate, right? So the correct answer, so they don't say reproducing, they say replicate, which is a synonym of reproduce, right?
Right.
Yeah, so reproduce and replicate are synonyms. And it doesn't say prevent. What does it say? If you go to the passage, like specifically, what word do they use here? Are you looking at the passage?
I I didn't know you were talking to me.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah. So if you look at the passage here, here's the word replicate. So instead of using the word reproduce, they use replicate. And instead of using the word prevent, they use the word
impede,
right there. So that's the correct answer right there. So again, notice how the IELTS works. This is very important. It's their only trick. So this is going to be impede, and this is going to be replicate right there. So all they do is just change the vocabulary. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. It's very different than GRE. GRE is a thinking test. The IELTS is like just a matching vocabulary test. That's all it is. All right, so next one, it removes all mineral particles. Well, if you come here to the passage, right, where does it say it removes all mineral particles? So if you look at distillation here, it says here, unfortunately, distillation equipment also removes up to 14 types of beneficial minerals. So if it's removing these 14 types of beneficial minerals, they didn't even change the vocabulary there. I mean, the actual passage clearly says remove minerals. So occasionally the IELTS won't even change the passage. They won't even change the passage. So that correct answer is going to be just D. And then finally, the last one, can anyone raise their hand? What does the passage say instead of produces and wastewater? Anyone know? What words does the passage use instead of produces and wastewater? Rahul?
Yes, Greg. Yeah, it says unstable water is generated as a byproduct.
Yeah, so it says number one, produces is going to match with generated, right?
Yeah.
And then how about wastewater?
Byproduct. Unstable water.
Does it say unstable water? Is that what it says?
Yeah. Yeah.
It says unusable.
Sorry, unusable water.
Yeah, I was like, well, unstable. I was a little bit confused. Yeah, so unusable water and also byproduct, right? I mean, typically when we use the word byproduct, we mean something bad, right?
Yes.
And then wastewater, of course, is going to match with unusable water right there. So as you guys can see, I think you can see how the IELTS works. That's it. That's the trick. The trick is just vocab. That's all it is. And the vocab's not even that hard, right? So for example, produces to generate, not that hard. Wastewater to unusable, not that hard. Prevent to impede, and then reproduce to replicate, not that hard, right? We're not talking about the GRE here. The GRE is, like we said before, a thinking test. And that's why it's just so difficult for a lot of people, right? And I agree. So Akshay is saying this is easier than TOEFL. I think I agree with you. And I like the IELTS more, if I'm being honest. Any questions before we do some more? Or before you guys do some more? Yeah, this is more interesting. I agree. Mahedi, do you have a question?
Hi, Greg.
Hello.
Can you listen me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. What if I know the function of the word distillation, chlorination, and all above, and just match the word definition by 7 to 11 and find the correct answer as I already show?
You mean you're
See my
using your outside knowledge?
yes.
I would say on the IELTS that's probably okay. It's just I wouldn't rely on that technique.
Okay.
Yeah, you definitely want to be using the passage as much as possible.
Yeah.
Do you work in water treatment or something?
Yeah, but I'm a teacher of a pharmacy department. That's why I know all of things.
So that's cheating. You're cheating. Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah, I would say in most cases, the topic is going to be something you're not familiar with. But in this case,
Yeah.
the IELTS is not going to lie to you. So if you want to use your outside knowledge, that's fine.
If I have opportunity, can I use this?
Yeah, but like I said, you got to be careful because sometimes the passage might contradict your outside knowledge or you might make a mistake. Whereas if you use the passage, you can just guarantee the right answer.
Okay, I got it.
Yep. Okay. Good question. Good question.
Thank
you. Any more questions about how the IELTS reading works? Okay. So let's go ahead and try this last one here. So for this last one, you're choosing 2 letters, A through E. So just 2 of them. And it says which 2 of the following claims about water are made by the writer. Remember, these are gonna change the vocabulary. So like bottled water is overpriced. If the author says this, he's not going to use this vocabulary. B, tap water may not have a nice flavor. So like another way to say that would be it tastes bad. Oops, why is that disappearing? Hold on one sec. There we go. Oh, well, tastes bad way down there. Yeah, sometimes this software is a little bit wonky. So tastes bad. Overpriced would be something like too expensive. How about you guys think about this? Look at C and D and E. What are different ways to say this? So, for example, most people should drink bottled water. What's a different way to say that? Can anyone raise their hand? Okay, doctor. What's a different way to say most people should drink bottled water?
I think that most people drinking purified water.
Yeah, so purified water, but purified water doesn't really mean bottled water, right? At least not in America. So purified water can also mean what we see in our sink as well. So I would probably say that, most people, another way to say that would be the majority should drink bottled water would be something like the majority of people, drinking bottled water is a really good idea. Something like that would be a different way to rephrase it. How about this one? Tap water is usually safe to drink. Can you rephrase that?
Tap water is safer.
You have to use different vocabulary though, right? So like, what's another way to say usually?
Usually means I don't remember how to say.
Like normally, typically?
Normally, right.
Yeah.
Typical, right.
Yeah. What's another way to say safe to drink?
It's
Okay. Well, we can ask somebody else. So Mahedi, what do you think?
Safe to drink means harmless.
Yeah, harmless is a good guess. Another guess would be not dangerous, not risky. Another word for drink would be consume, right? So,
Yeah.
we don't know exactly what words they're going to change here, but we know they are going to change some words, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the last one, public water supplies need better maintenance. What's another way to say that? Are you there? Mahedi? I think his microphone. Are you there? I think his microphone's having some issues. So I think you guys get the idea here. And remember, you're only choosing 2 of these. So go ahead and try this. I'll give you 3 or 4 minutes. And remember, on the IELTS, the answers usually go in order. They usually go in order. So the first place that I would be looking here is probably like the last paragraph. That would be the first place that I'm looking for these answers. All right, guys, I'll give you about 3 or 4 minutes. Go ahead and try to find the 2 answers that the author says for the passage. Okay, guys, one more minute. One more minute. All right, guys. So if you come up here to the actual paragraph, remember I told you it should be in the last paragraph. IELTS goes in order in most cases. So it says here, there is little evidence to suggest importing bottled water at significant. So they're talking about importing bottled water. right? And if you go down to the question, it's not saying importing. So even though they say significant expense, they're talking about importing. So it can be A. It's not the bottled water is overpriced. Okay. But if you keep reading, both tap water and bottled water are tested for pathogens and contaminants. And aside from isolated cases means normally, right? Normally, tap water is harmless. And this was actually a guess from one of the students. I forget who exactly, maybe Mahedi. Mahedi actually guessed the word harmless, and he was exactly correct. So good job. So that's one of the answers right there. Nevertheless, many purchasers of bottled water still justify their choice on the quite reasonable basis that tap water has an unpleasant taste. So they're saying that tap water has an unpleasant taste. So if you come down here, right? Bottled water is overpriced. No. Tap water may not have a nice flavor. Yes. Most people should drink bottled water. No, he says tap water is fine, right? Tap water is usually safe to drink. Yeah. It's harmless. So we choose that right there. Public water supplies need better maintenance. He never talks about that. So the correct answer is B and D. Any questions about that? Retul?
Hi, Greg. In the passage, if could you just go up?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So the last statement, nevertheless, many purchasers of the bottled water. So that's actually the person who's buying the tap water. It is not actually the author or the writer who's saying it, right? So then it is the opinion of the person who's buying those products or the water.
Well, he's saying that, first of all, you mean the bottled water, not the tap
Yeah.
water, right? Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he's saying the purchasers, when they buy bottled water based on taste,
Mhm.
when he says the author does give his opinion, he says it's reasonable.
Okay.
So
Okay.
according to the author, that's a reasonable thing to do. He's like, yeah, okay, I understand. So the author is actually admitting that tap water
Yep.
has kind of a bad taste.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. That does.
So
Thank you.
where do you live?
I live in India.
In India, can you drink water out of the tap, or do you guys always buy bottled water?
Not necessarily. If it is from tap, we boil it.
Okay, so is that true in every city, or is that depending on where you are? India is a big
Depending.
country.
Yeah, depending on where we are.
Yeah, so if you're like in Mumbai, for example, do I need to
Mhm.
boil water out of the tap?
Not necessarily, but yeah, it depends on the water treatment plant as well.
Yeah, okay. So what he's saying is he's saying in developed countries, UK, America, tap
Mm-hmm.
water is basically no problem, but he's saying sometimes it might taste bad.
Right.
Yeah, okay, makes sense.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yep. Ranjan, question?
Yeah, Greg, can you explain the why answer A is not correct? It's like
So
not.
answer A is not correct. If you come down here for a couple reasons, let me erase it. Okay. So a couple reasons. Number one, it just says bottled water is too expensive or overpriced, but it never uses the word imported.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's reason number one. Number two, the passage uses the word significant expense, right? Does significant expense mean too expensive?
No.
Not the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's the second reason. And again, how do I know too, T-O-O? Because of the word over right there.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah. And one more question, like
Sure.
here we have two answers, right? Question
Yeah,
number 12 and
B, and
13.
D. Because they're telling us to choose two, right?
Okay. So if I get one correct and one wrong, so will I be getting any marks or not?
Yeah, you will. So the way IELTS works is this is actually two questions. So
All
if you
right.
look here, see where it says questions 12 and 13.
Mm-hmm.
So you will get 1 point.
Okay, great.
Yeah, make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, cool. All right, so I think that is the lesson here. Can somebody raise their hand and just kind of summarize what we talked about today? So whenever you do a IELTS reading passage, what's the strategy? Someone please summarize this for us, just to, prove to me that I kind of got through to you guys. All right, Retul, whenever you do an IELTS reading passage, what's the strategy?
It's always about changing vocabulary of
Mm-hmm.
what the question is asking.
Right.
That's
So what
the
does that mean?
only.
Tell us more.
Yeah. So basically, if there is a word, let's say the example which we did recently, prevents, which is on screen. So if I know a word which can replace the word prevent, and I look for a synonym of prevent in the passage, that mostly would be the answer of that particular question.
Yeah, that's basically it, guys. It's basically just this idea of changing vocabulary from the passage to the question or from the passage to the answer. Rahul, you have a question?
Yes, correct. In the one of your videos, you told that the word "to" has negative connotation, right?
Correct.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, so basically the word to, it doesn't matter what you put after, it's always going to be a negative idea. So even if I say too beautiful, that's not a positive thing, it's a negative thing. So, for example, let's say you see a woman on the street and your friend says, go talk to her. And you go, no, 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 she's too beautiful. So, see, you're not actually giving like a compliment. You're saying something negative about yourself. You're saying, oh, that woman is too beautiful for me, so I know I don't have a shot. And see how it's kind of overall a negative idea?
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, got it, correct. Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions before I start my day? All right, last one, Mohammed. Are you there, Mohammed?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Yeah, so just wanted to ask what is basically the scoring pattern, or how many questions basically correct will score you how much,
So
on what
IELTS
scale
is
actually is it like?
graded IELTS is graded on a scale of like 1.0 to 9.0 and 0.5s are possible. A good IELTS score probably starts around 6.5 or 7.0. And if you want to get a 6.5 or a 7.0 out of 40 questions, you probably need to get like 26 to 29 reading questions correct. So you're
Okay.
looking at, getting, you can make like 11 to 12 mistakes. If you want to get a really good score like 8.0 or 8.5, you have to start looking at like 35 out of 40 or 36 out of 40, something like that.
Okay.
Make sense?
So it is more like if you're gonna go into that top elite 70%, you need to get more than 80% right.
Yeah,
It's
but
more
you have
like
to,
that.
where are you from, Mohammed?
I'm from India.
Yeah, so you have to understand something. From India, you have a huge advantage here. So if I were from India, just because of the extent of English, I would probably be expecting a score like 8.0, 8.5. But if I'm from a country that doesn't have English as kind of such a common language, I would probably be at a minimum looking for 7.0, 7.5. So if I were you, I would be trying to get like an 8.0.
Yeah, I got
Yep.
your point here.
Yep, cool. All right.
Thank you.
All right, guys, this was fun. If you want to do more IELTS reading, that link I sent you has 2 more reading passages. You can kind of test out this technique of the matching vocabulary. And I will talk to you guys later. You can message me on Discord if you like. All right, bye-bye.